So now he's not free to travel. He can't go somewhere else because tomorrow he has to come back and get another fish. Does that make sense? So it puts somebody in a dependent state. He's got less confidence, but he's got less independence. By teaching him how to create his own income, he is now free to go wherever he wants, do what he wants, because he can create an income whenever he wants. I really believe that that is the biggest thing and the best way we can help the individual, the family, and the country, is by teaching people how to become income independent and how to own their own business. So I got very passionate about that. I can talk about that for 24 hours in a row, but I only got 24 minutes, so I'm going to hurry up, right? The point is, though, I'm going to go over some stats about why we want to build a business, why it is that we're going to do this. And I'll tell you, it's amazing to me how many people just put their head in the sand and like kind of hope it goes away, right? Because what I'm getting ready to talk about, a lot of times, I think people think we're talking about what's going to happen, right? That that jobs aren't doing that well, and they think we're talking about the future. No. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm talking about what's happening. This is a trend that's been happening for a long time. At some point, you've got to stand up, plant your flag and go kick some butt. You've got to say enough is enough, and you've got to go do something about it. It's amazing to me how many people just stand by and let their standard of living and let their status in life continue to decrease without doing something about it. Let's find out some of the stats that we figured out. This says here, the no recovery for the middle class. Look at this. Now, 5 years into the recovery, it still doesn't feel like one for many American families, in part because a long middle class decline is still underway. Here's a look at the punch by the numbers. See, 5 years into the recovery, if you go around to most people today, if you go to the middle class today, they will still say things like, hey, well, you know how it is with the recession and all. The recession has been over for over 5 years. In this slide, I think I got at the end of at the end of 2013. It's been done for like 6 years now. But middle class people think it's still going on because they didn't get any advantage. They haven't gotten better off. So the recovery is now officially in its 5th year. Sure, the stock market's back and housing is getting off the floor, but for middle America, the pressure is still on. This has been an uneven recovery, with the benefits accumulating to the rich in the corporate sector, while regular folks have largely been left behind, added stagnant wages, rising living costs, mediocre job gains, and persistent long-term employment. Now, that's not a shock to you. It's not a shock to anybody you would talk to. This might be, and none of this is new. The recession merely exacerbated trends that started in the late 1970s. This is a 40-year trend. This is not something that's just started now. Like, oh, well, the millennials have to deal with it. No! Gen Xers had to deal with it. It's been going on for 40 years. Do you think all of a sudden it's just going to be going one way for 40 years and all of a sudden what? Pop? And the funny thing is, most of us middle-class Americans, we think we can vote the difference. That we're going to vote the president, that's what's going to change this. No, this has been going on through Republicans, Democrats, all sorts of types. The middle class has been declining, the rich have been getting richer in all administrations. All of them. There's just some things that even the President of the United States can't fix. Even the President of the United States can't change. Like, for example, certain laws, like the law of gravity. Right? I don't care who we elect. We can elect a Republican and Democrat as the first independent in history. You jump off this building, you're going to break a leg. True or false? They're not changing the law of gravity. There's certain economic laws that the President of the United States can't change. Certain laws. And it's funny because we all think we're voting on this and we're not. Whether it's been a Democrat or Republican, the direction's been the same for the middle class. There's only one person that can stop that trend for your family. Who is it? That's it. That's it. It's been going on since 1970. Lost manufacturing prowess, an important source of good-paying jobs. A shift to generally lower-paid service jobs. Freer global trade, which deepens these employment problems, and increased reliance on finance, credit, and debt as families try to hold on to the American dream. See, look at what's happened. Service jobs since 1980 are up 87%. Goods and producing jobs, which tend to be higher paying, negative 23%. Since 1980, all the net job creation has been in the service sector, where wages tend to be lower than goods producing sector. Now, think about what that means for a second. The trend, we're seeing it happen. We know what's happening. We're just not doing anything about it. When we talk about globalizing the economy, we're talking about the furtherization of free enterprise or free trade. Well, the problem is this: as this world becomes more and more one economy, there's always going to be someone somewhere that's willing to do your job for less. And when your company finds that person, they will fire you and hire them. You know, and sometimes, again, the naive people say, oh, no, not me. Not me, my boss loves me. My company's a good company. They wouldn't do it to me. Not only would they do it to you, you do it to them. Not only would you do it, you are doing it today. You say, no, not me. I'm not like that. All right, well, think about it like this. If your car broke down today, and there's two A+ Angie List car mechanics, one says they'll fix it for $1,000, one fixes it for $800. Which one do you take it to? So basically, you hired $800 and fired $1,000. Why do you think your company would be any different? See, here's all this is saying. Service jobs. The only reason service jobs have grown is because you can't vacuum my carpet from India. Right? You can't cut my lawn from Indonesia. Does that make sense? That's the reason. You can't service it from over there. Everything else, whoop. Unfortunately, service jobs they pay less, and even that we're under pressure with immigration as they come in willing to do jobs for less. Right? We're going to talk about the standard of living for a middle America, but I'm telling you, this is what fires me up, is the fact that I really believe that here's what I really believe. I believe that 95% of America is on a train that is heading towards the cliff. I see the cliff. I see the cliff. I see the train heading towards it. And I'm riding behind, like one of those westerns on a horse, right? And I'm like, jump off the train. There's a cliff coming. And most people on the train are looking at me like I'm crazy. Right? Like, what you're the one on the horse, you idiot. Right? And I'm looking back at them like, you're crazy. Like, the cliff is coming. And I feel like, man, I got to save these people because most of them, they want to be saved. They just don't know the cliff's coming. So I really feel like it's my obligation, my responsibility to let them know that the cliff is coming and it's actually already started, the decline. But it's only going to get worse. Only going to get worse. It's funny because most Americans, I hear a lot of Americans sometimes talk about how, I got it bad. Man, you don't understand, I had it bad. People that come from where I come from, they just don't win. I'm from the hood, I had it bad. And it's hilarious to me because in the United States of America, 98% of our poverty has color television and AC. That's 98% of our poverty. See, the reason why I say this is because if you think you've got it bad now, trust me when I say this, it's going to get a lot worse. We don't realize how worse it can get because we're sheltered here in America. If you really want to see bad, you've got to go to a third world country, right? You've got to go over there and see what living is like before you can say how bad you have it. See, it can get a lot worse. Yes, even here in the United States of America, it can and will get a lot worse. Well, what do I mean? Let me just give you a quick example. There was a neighborhood my uncle lived in, right? And in America, this is just standard. It is one house, one family, right? That's how we do it. Of course, if there's one house, there should be for one family. And the way we do it is, each adult, if you're over 14, you get your own room. So if a 4-person family tends to have a 4-bedroom house, right? If they've got young kids, maybe the young kids sleep together, right? But each room has their own TV. Each adult, if you're like 17, 18, you have your own car. So if there's 4 in a house, and in America, really there might be 3 cars, right? Everybody's got their own phone, and there's a TV in every room. That's how we live. That's normal. Well, I was in a neighborhood, and a family, moved in from south of the border to the same neighborhood. And it's funny because I heard all the, housewives start to, kind of gossip. One of them was saying, "Oh, that's going to bring down property values." The other one was saying, "Oh, I feel so bad for them. We should bring them a casserole, or, let's bring them some food. I feel so bad." It really is, neither one is accurate. It's not being selfish about the real estate guy, but the truth is, you shouldn't feel bad for them. They weren't forced to come. If that wasn't better, they would have never done it. Nobody trades down. So obviously they're coming here because it's better than where they're coming from. And herein lies the problem. And here's what I forgot to tell the situation. See, for us, 1 family, 1 house. No, in this 4-bedroom house, it was 1 family per room. So there was 4 families in this house. Each family got a room, not a house. I never went inside, but I would be willing to bet that it wasn't 1 TV per room. It was 1 TV per house. I'd also be willing to bet they didn't all have a cell phone. I know this for a fact. It wasn't 1 car per adult. It was 1 car per house. So there was about 16 people that lived in that house, and they all shared 1 car. And see, it's funny because I actually started talking to a couple of them, and what would happen is one would have, night shift work, and one would have day shift work. So one would sleep in the bed during the day, and one would sleep in the bed at night while the other one was working. And that's what their standard of living was. And again, some people felt bad, but the truth is, if it wasn't better than where they were coming from, they would have never done it. Here's why I'm bringing this up. Is if they're willing to do that, meaning they volunteered to do that, they weren't forced to do that. If they're willing to live in the same house with other families, share a car with other families, can they not accept a less wage? How much less of a wage can they accept? A lot less. So if you want to compete with somebody like that, what do you have to do? You too have to lower your expenses to do the same thing in business, right? If you're in an industry and one company cuts a whole bunch of costs and is able to do a job for less, if you want to compete, you too have to cut costs. And so you can do that same job for less, true or false. So that's what happens here in today. And again, most of us, we're not seeing it coming, but it's coming. And again, if you want to compete, you're going to have to lower your standard of living as well. And that's what's happening. Service jobs are growing, but others aren't. Let me give you another idea. Middle class income, since 1981, down 20%. But in the same time frame, corporate profits are up 34%. Do you know some of these companies got more cash than they've ever had before? I mean, they are sitting and rolling in the dough. 34% more profit, but 20% less cash. Why is that? Middle class families have received a smaller and smaller slice of the country's economic output, even as corporate profitability has doubled. Doubled. Now, do you think that's going to stop? Why would it? It's so funny to me. I meet some people, and let me kind of get an idea of what are the grocery stores here. We got Albertsons and Smith's. All right, here's what happens. I got a friend who was promised a raise after 12 months at Smith's, right? And after 12 months, he didn't get a raise, right? 18 months, he didn't get a raise. So he gets mad. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I'm pissed. They didn't give me a raise. They promised me a raise. And I'm like, all right, so what are you going to do about it? I'm going to Albertsons. And I'm thinking, what? Do you really think they operate off of a different plan or a different way of doing business? It's going to be the same. It's not your job. It's not your boss. It's the way it works. Let me give you an idea. And you need to be confident when you're talking about things, because I hear some people that come up and they'll say, hey, you just want to recruit me to make money off me. And a lot of you guys start backtracking like,